Have you ever witnessed something so quiet it almost disappeared, yet held the power to decide if someone lived or died? Inside a private hospital in Riyadh, a Saudi prince was slipping away, not from disease, from something no machine could measure. And the only person who saw it was a Filipino nurse named Elena. The prince was dying in the most expensive way possible. That's what Dr. Hassan kept thinking as he stood outside the suite at 3 a.m., staring at charts that made no sense. Inside that room, machines worth millions monitored every breath, every heartbeat. The prince had access to treatments most hospitals couldn't pronounce, specialists flown in from Germany, protocols from Johns Hopkins. Yet he worsened every single day. Not dramatically, not in the catastrophic way that brings doctors running, but in the slow, grinding decline that terrifies medical professionals more than any emergency. Because when a patient fails despite perfect treatment, it means you're missing something. The prince was 54. 6 months ago, he was commanding rooms, building schools across continents, meeting with world leaders. Now he barely spoke. His family visited less. Not because they didn't care, because watching him fade was unbearable. The palace quietly began preparing for the inevitable, though no one dared say it aloud. The medical team rotated through like clockwork, checking, adjusting, recording, treating a body. But the person inside had already begun to disappear. Elena Santos noticed it on her 11th night shift in the royal wing. Not something in the charts, not something the monitors showed, something in the prince's eyes when the doctors left and the room fell silent. Abandonment. She had seen that look before. In her Lola's eyes back in Pampanga when family got too busy to visit. In her father's face during his final months when everyone treated him like a case instead of a man who loved fishing. It was the look of someone who stopped believing they mattered beyond their diagnosis. Elena was supposed to work efficiently, administer medications, monitor vitals, document, move on. But something refused to let her leave so quickly. One night around 2 a.m., as she finished checking his IV, she heard it. A sound so soft she almost missed it. The prince was crying, not sobbing, just silent tears sliding down his face while he stared at the ceiling, too weak to wipe them away. Every protocol said, maintain professional distance, alert the doctor, document, move on. But she didn't. She pulled a chair to his bedside and sat down. "Your Highness," she said softly, her accent carrying warmth, "I am here. You don't have to be alone right now." The prince's eyes shifted toward her, surprised, vulnerable, almost childlike, and Elena understood what no machine could measure. The prince wasn't dying from his illness. He was dying from being treated like an illness. What Elena did over the next nights broke every unspoken rule. She stayed beyond her required time. She spoke to him not in formal, careful tones, but warmly, conversationally, like family. She told him about her children in the Philippines, about her small hometown where neighbors still knew each other's names. She asked questions no one else dared ask. "What do you miss most?" The prince blinked as if the question was foreign. "Miss?" he repeated, voice hoarse. "Yes, Your Highness. What do you miss from before you got sick?" Silence stretched so long, Elena thought she'd overstepped. Then barely audible. "The desert. Tell me about it." Slowly, haltingly, the prince spoke. About dawn drives into the vast Rub al-Khali. About silence that felt like prayer. About how small his problem seemed under a sky that stretched forever. As he spoke, something extraordinary happened. His heart rate steadied on the monitor. His breathing deepened. Tension in his face softened in a way no sedative had achieved. Dr. Hassan noticed it the next morning. He studied the overnight vitals, frowning. What happened at 2:17 a.m.? His readings stabilized completely for 40 minutes. The nurses exchanged glances. They knew. Nurse Elena was with him. Doing what? A shrug. Talking. Dr. Hassan's initial reaction was skepticism. Talking? That's not medicine. But he couldn't argue with the data. That night he stayed late, hidden in the observation area, watching through the window as Elena entered for her shift. What he witnessed defied everything his training taught him. Elena didn't just perform tasks, she performed presence. She adjusted pillows with care, suggesting he was her own father. She described the sunset from the hospital garden, painting it so vivid the prince closed his eyes to imagine it. She hummed softly while checking bandages, filling the room with something warmer than air. Then she did something that made Dr. Hassan's breath catch. She held the prince's hand, not to check his pulse, just held it. "You are not your sickness, Your Highness," she said quietly. "You are still you, and that matters more than any test result." The prince's fingers tightened around hers. On the monitors, every reading improved. Dr. Hassan stood in the dark, watching, feeling something he hadn't experienced in 20 years of practice. Humility. This Filipino nurse, who earned in a month what he earned in a day, had just taught him something no medical school covered. Healing requires more than fixing what's broken. It requires reminding people why being alive is worth the fight. The breakthrough came on a Thursday evening. Elena arrived to find the prince agitated, refusing treatment, pulling away from the team, muttering in Arabic. Dr. Hassan looked exhausted. "He won't let us near him. We may need to sedate him." "Let me try something first," Elena said. She approached slowly, voice gentle. "Your Highness, it's Elena. May I sit with you?" His wild eyes found hers. Something cleared. "I want to go home," he whispered. "I'm so tired of this place." Elena's heart broke, because she understood. Not the palace, not the hospital, home, where you're not a patient or a prince, where you're just yourself. She made a decision that could have gotten her fired. "Close your eyes, Your Highness." He did. Elena began to speak, voice low and rhythmic. She described a place she'd never seen but built from his words. The desert at sunrise. Silence broken only by wind. Endless sand making problems feel small. Sky turning from black to gold. But she added something of her own. She described it the way her grandmother described the Philippines when Elena felt homesick. With love, with longing, with understanding that home isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a feeling. She pulled out her phone and found a video. 60 seconds of sunrise over Manila Bay, water turning liquid gold, fishermen preparing boats. She held it where he could see. "This is my home. It's far from here. But when I watch this, I'm there. Maybe we can visit my home, and it will help you remember yours." The prince watched, once, then again. And then, impossibly, he smiled. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "So is the desert," Elena replied. "And one day soon, you're going to see it again, not as a sick man, as yourself." That night, the prince slept peacefully for the first time in months. No medication change, no new treatment, just a Filipino nurse who understood that sometimes the only medicine that works is hope. Word spread quietly through the hospital. Some doctors dismissed it. Coincidence. Placebo. But the prince's improvement continued. He began eating, speaking more, asking about recovery timelines. The light returned to his eyes. Dr. Hassan finally requested a meeting with Elena. "I need to understand what you did," he said genuinely. "What did you see that we missed?" Elena chose her words carefully. "Doctor, with respect, you saw a patient. I saw a person. You measured his blood and organs. I saw his heart. Not the one that pumps, the one that hopes and fears and remembers what it feels like to be alive." She paused. "In my country, we have a saying, kapwa, shared identity, shared humanity. When you treat someone with kapwa, you're not above them. You're with them, in their pain, in their fear, in their hope. We're trained to maintain professional distance," Dr. Hassan said. "I understand, and maybe that's necessary for many things. But sometimes professional distance is just another word for loneliness. And loneliness," she met his eyes, "loneliness kills as surely as any disease." The prince requested to see Elena before discharge. When she entered his palace sitting room, he was standing, stronger than she'd seen him in all their time together. "Elena Santos," he said formally, then softened. "You gave me back something I thought was lost forever." "Your health, Your Highness?" "No," he shook his head. "My humanity. In that hospital, I stopped being a person. I became a case, a problem to solve. You were the only one who remembered I was still human, that I still had dreams, that my life still mattered beyond the machines. He handed her an envelope. This is a letter of commendation. It will be sent to every hospital in the kingdom. I'm recommending all medical professionals receive training not just in treatment, but in something you already know: how to care for the person, not just the patient. Elena's eyes filled with tears. And this, he continued with a second envelope, is personal, a scholarship fund for the children of healthcare workers from the Philippines. Because your people understand something the world is forgetting, that the most powerful medicine has always been and will always be human connection. 6 months later, Dr. Hassan stood before a medical conference in Dubai. On the screen behind him, what a Filipino nurse taught me about healing. He told the story, every detail. The room was silent. We have become so sophisticated, he concluded, that we forgot medicine's foundation. Healing begins with seeing the person, with sitting in their fear instead of rushing past it, with holding space for their humanity when illness tries to erase it. He paused. A nurse from the Philippines understood this intuitively. It took me 20 years and a dying prince to learn it. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes, but the real impact happened quietly. In hospitals across the kingdom, doctors began pulling chairs to bedsides. Nurses spent extra minutes asking how patients felt, not just what hurt. Families reported their loved ones were being treated with warmth that felt like home. And Elena? She went back to her night shifts, caring for patients the way she always had. With kapwa, with humanity, because she knew something the world is slowly relearning. Medicine can save a body, but only connection can save a life. Somewhere tonight, a nurse is holding the hand of someone who feels forgotten. Somewhere, a patient is crying not from pain, but from loneliness. And somewhere, someone is learning what Elena always knew. The most powerful thing you can give another human isn't medicine or money or technology. It's the simple, revolutionary act of making them feel seen, of reminding them they're not alone, of treating them not as a case to solve, but as a person worth fighting for. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's the one thing that makes all the difference between surviving and truly living. If this story reminded you of someone who cares for others far from home, someone whose quiet kindness changes lives without recognition, share this with them. Let them know their work matters more than they'll ever understand, because these stories aren't just worth telling, they're worth remembering.